All right, ladies and gentlemen who are joining us on YouTube, I just wanted to kind of talk out exactly how we're doing the theater process. I know a lot of people have been showing interest or are curious how this works, and since we've kind of changed the very nature of how we're doing this, I thought I'd do just a very quick run through so everyone has a general idea of how the process works and how we're doing this. So, I'm actually going to pause the music for this, sorry. So, what you do is, first of all, you go to our Discord. By the way, when we do the next theater, I'm making a separate Discord for it just to make it nice and easy. It's a lot easier to keep everything coordinated and tracked, and it lets me send out everyone tags without bothering people not a part of the theater. And there's a few other reasons. I've thought about just switching it over to a new thing now, but we'll do that for the next theater. For now, you join the Discord. You're like, hey, you go to the channels. In fact, I'll pull up Discord right now just so I can tell you exactly what they're named because I don't remember off the top of my head. There's raining. There's rain in the background. It's very important there's rain. I've got 18 missed messages from Saldir. I'll get to those later. You go down. There's a whole category called Lorewalker Theater. Now, there's several channels there. Theater discussion, director feedback, auditions, line submissions, current status, and Terra Faces. That's a temporary one. Theater discussion, director feedback are both obvious. You shouldn't have to worry about that too much. Director feedback is mostly for me and trying to toss back thoughts to you. Auditions is if you're new or you want to try out for a new role. Line submissions is obvious. That's where you put the finalized lines. Current status, however, is the first thing you should look at. There is exactly one post in current status, and that is the only post that needs to be there. It is a link to the spreadsheet. That is this spreadsheet. Now, I have put a lot of work and effort into making this spreadsheet nice and understandable, so hopefully it works. If you have any questions, however, don't feel hesitant to ask. The way it works, any line in red is done. Any line in pink is partially done. Any line in black is not done. Now, I want to explain what this means very briefly. If you have done a line that is in black, I either don't have it or haven't put it in yet. Now, obviously, I try to do this basically on a daily basis, but I'm not always up to date. Like right now, I have several lines from Saldir, and I think Alicia, I have to put several lines from her in. But point being, this is how we're keeping track of this. If it's in black, it's not in the finalized thing. If it's in red or pink, those lines are locked in. That means that you don't even have to think or worry about those. Every single one of these, this took an enormous amount of effort, was put into making it. So let me explain what I mean by that. So let's say, here's, let me rewind a second. So you can click a chapter link and it'll pull up another page, which is this page. This has all of the director's notes. The director's note, now this uses the same system, by the way. Red is done, black is not. Very simple. Like that. See, I'm actually still missing some of Dream Whisperer's stuff for Chapter 1, so that's why he's pink on the main page. Make sense? Otherwise, Chapter 1 is extremely close to being done. Anywho, so, if you are someone who is already involved, this is where your name goes. Whatever this name is, that's what I'm putting in the credits. One of the first things I ask anyone who's interested in this is, what credit do you want? So you can put whatever you want here for that credit within reason. I don't care. Some people put their real names because they want to use this as an actual, like a credit or a part of their resume. Some people put their screen names. I don't care, again. All I care about is what you want on this credit because that's what's going in the video, okay? Now, once you've, so obviously, like say Nascosta here, he has to do lines for Quan in Chapter 9 and Chapter 11. This should be fairly self-apparent, and I do hope that this is fairly self-apparent. He also needs to do the Terra Faces right below, which is in Chapter 10. Any given character, like, I shouldn't have to explain this, you know. Aiko has lines in Chapter 8 through 13, but no lines in Chapter 1 through 7. That's how that works. Blanc. Now, let's say you're brand new and you have no idea what you want to do. So you scroll down to here. We've got male lines, doesn't matter lines, and female lines, okay? I also keep track of my own stuff here at the very bottom. You guys don't need to worry about this. This is just for me. Anyways, so if you are capable of doing a male or a female voice, you look at the roles and you say, aha! Or you could look at one of the eithers. The reason these are eithers is because these genders don't matter. These are Mughals, Black Mages, children, and entities where their gender is not specified, and it does not matter. So I will take either male or female voices for any of these. Make sense? Same general concept when it comes to these. So you look at these and you're like, okay, so I want to play random dude. Actually, in total honesty, I, lore runner, will probably play random dude, because I know exactly what that role is. So you want to play random dude, you look and you see what he's in. Well, he's in Chapter 9, so you click that. That pulls up Chapter 9. It's like, okay, well, it's going to take a second, because Google Docs takes a second. Random dude. And you look for, come on, random dude. There he is. And there's his lines right there at 45 minutes and 48 seconds. Now you notice this is not his actual line, because actually writing out all the lines of dialogue in this game would be absolutely freaking insane. So, how do you get your lines? Well, you look at that timestamp, 45 minutes and 48 seconds. And you click this link right here. Every single one of these leads to a timing video. 45, 48. So we're going to shuffle over here. Random dude is this guy on the right here who's about to be like, right there. That's actually his only line. I told you I knew who this guy was. That is his only line, is that one exclamation mark. This is why I'm probably going to voice him. But that's where you see the actual lines. Like, for example, if you were voicing Gilgamesh, what you would see is, I'm sorry! And then Aiko's like, what happened, Amaranth? That guy was totally frightened. Now, this is where you both get your lines and get a relative pace for the timing. When I was doing the raw recording, I made a point of saying all the lines out loud and left several seconds, about 1 to 2 seconds after each line, depending on the relative pace of what I wanted from it. That does mean the final product is going to have a few spaces involved, but whatever. So then you go, you record your line, which in this case, remember, is back here somewhere. There's other ways to do this. You can, like, put in a manual timestamp code if you want to just zip through it. But anyways, point being. So you're like, okay, I need to record my line. You're the flaming amaranth. So you record your line. You put that in line submissions. And whenever I get around to it, and I'm just going to be real about that, whenever I get around to it, I go ahead, download the file, and then I'll pull up Premiere, which is what I use to edit these, lock it in, and if it is done, there's two things I will do. First thing I will do, come on. Where's random dude? There he is. First thing I will do is I will do this. Well, actually, first thing I'll do is I'll put it under your name. So, like, no, it would be random dude. I'll temporarily do this to demonstrate. So let's say Gary was doing random dude. So I'll do that. So you now know that this is one of your people. And then I will be like, bam! And that means it's done. Then I'll go over here, look at random dude, and I'll go ahead and be like, well, his lines for that chapter are done. And because those are all his lines in the game, that role is done. Make sense? That's basically it. That's the whole system in a nutshell. This has been a developing process because, as you can see, there's a lot to keep track of. I'm actually very proud of how much red is on the left side of this. I really am. Chapter 3 is extraordinarily close to being completely done. Chapter 4 is getting there as well. I myself have started actually sitting down and recording some of my lines. In fact, if you'll notice, I have done all of my lines except for Vivi and Black Waltz number 3, which I'm not even technically sure I'm going to be Black Waltz number 3 yet. I was just doing that to slot it in and be done with it. We do still have a lot of NPCs. Now, one of the things I want to mention, and all of these characters have basically one line to them, or one section of lines. That doesn't mean they're unimportant, and that doesn't mean I want them, I don't care about them. As I've said many, many times, good voice acting is good voice acting, whether you say one line or 50 or 5,000. So don't think that these are unimportant. In fact, one of the biggest stresses I have in my life is how large this list is of people I still... Look at this. I need this many people to do roles still. This is a large list, and I've been trying to knock this out as much as possible. So please don't think that this is an unimportant thing. Furthermore, to approach this from a different angle, if you're hesitant or nervous about doing voice acting, there's nothing wrong with saying, well, I want to do Trenogard right. He has, I think, like 5 lines in Chapter 9. And so you could do that and see what you feel of it, and if you felt comfortable with it, we'll give you something else. I'm not going to look at that just yet, because I want to finish my line of thought. One of the other things I want to mention, and I've been doing this a lot, is anytime someone says, I'd love to do random NPCs, my response is, okay, do this. Or like I did this with Harriman. I'm like, okay, do this guy. And I try to give you roles across chapters. Basically, the idea is to try and make it so that you do not interact with yourself in a voice acting manner, which is difficult for even good voice actors to do. So, for example, you could sign up for Sky Oracle Mylan and Young Man and this dwarf and Laudo and Burmesian Soldier Doyle. All of those are completely segregated roles, and all of those could be done by one person. And Lord knows we have several people who have really been stepping up to the plate for doing NPCs, such as this person. Look at this. Look at this. Or, scroll down a little bit. This person. Maverick has basically been my go-to for male NPCs, and Platty has been my go-to for female NPCs. Although, and I mean no offense by this, Platty, but you don't have a lot of range in your voice, so I don't think I'm going to assign too many more to you at this point. However, we only have so many female NPC or female voice actresses, so there's only so much we can do about that. And if you're paying attention, we still have several female roles to do, including Mikoto, who actually has several lines in the last 2 chapters. Like, she's not a small character. All of these are small characters. All of these are one-offs. Except for Alexandria Soldier 1, who has like 1 line in 4 separate chapters. And on the off chance you see this, Foxby, if you still want to be involved, please let me know. You were an awesome actress, and it would be a real shame to lose you, but life is life, so whatever. And I think that's about it. Now, I suppose I should answer one last thing before I go to questions, and that answer is what is required. The base requirement is a decent mic. Now, if I was to be really limiting on this, which, I could be, I would require you to have a good mic, but I'm not. I'm more interested in more people being involved than I am in the mic quality being normalized. What I mean by that is we are accepting plenty of people who have a wide variety of mics which are going to sound different. There's the end, right? There's not really a lot I can do about that other than literally buying everyone the same mic. And even that's not going to make the sound quality the same because everyone's going to be recording in a different studio, effectively. In short, as I am trying to be as professional as possible, but I'm not requiring you to be at professional level of quality. Make sense? So a mic that works is really the only thing I really require. Mic that works, be on Discord, do the job. That's about it. Before I move forward, does anybody have any questions about all of this? I know that only applies to the people who are live. And Rax. Why Banjo-Tooie? I don't think I've ever played that game. I'll say thank you in a minute. I want to chop off the VOD before I interrupt it. I suppose I should mention one other thing, actually, while I am here. Just occurred to me. There's one other requirement I have, and that is how you do your line submissions. So what I want, all I need in your audition is your name. And if you have a character in mind, the character name. That's all I care from the audition. Because it's mostly a sample of your voice and your mic. That's all that really matters for the audition. For an actual line, I am far pickier because I have to keep track of literally thousands of files across 13 chapters. So what I require is you to put the chapter number, your name, whatever your credit is basically, the character you're playing, and the timestamp for the line. Chapter, name, timestamp. Make sense? That is mandatory. I want to make that clear because again, I have to keep track of an inordinate amount of files. And if you just put in, for example, I don't know, trying to use an example that's not recent. People used to put in things like okay, I'm going to make fun of you, Platty. Is it okay? You didn't do this, but if, for example, if you just put in a file that just says Platty, that doesn't help me at all. If you say Platty character, that kind of helps me. If you put in character, that kind of helps me, but basically, no. Chapter number, your credit name, your character name, timestamp of the specific line. Now, this actually leads to another thing. And I do actually want to mention this, even though nobody has actually asked this. Some people have asked, what exact format do I prefer for the actual lines? I'm malleable on this. Everybody does their own thing. Some people will record a separate file for each individual line. Some people record a separate file for each bundle of lines. Some people record a file for every line they do in the entire chapter, and I think that's everything, basically, at that point. All of those work for me. There's a different editing process to slot in each of those, but all of those work for me, so I'm not actually picky on that. The one thing I do require, though, well, I shouldn't say require. One thing I ask is you make it a stereo file, because the way Premiere works, it doesn't allow you to do mono sound in normal editing. So if you send in a mono sound file, I have to go manually turn every one of your submissions into a stereo file by basically copying on top of itself and then exporting that out. So, also, as an addendum, don't worry about doing too much editing of the sound file on your end, since I usually do that on my end anyways. But if you want to do it, like I know Maverick does his own sound cancellation and stuff in his files, that's fine. It removes some of the work from me, so I don't have any problem with you doing that. But I don't require it, is my point. What format is most convenient for me? Well, that's Rax. If you could get Superman Prime a invite, that would be awesome, please and thank you. What format works most convenient for me? I would say, if I'm being completely honest, bundles of lines is the most convenient for me. However, I do know that not everyone is familiar with FF9 like I am. So, give me a second. Hang on, I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. Give me a moment here. Because I know this is kind of easier to show than to try and explain. But you're going to have to give me a moment because I got a lot of things up right now. No. We'll use this as an example. Now, I will say, for the larger roles, sending just one file for everything is fine. Because you're talking constantly, right? That makes perfect sense. It's more like editing out the times you're not talking, if you follow me. There we go. Okay, so let's just show this really quick. This is a quick and dirty. So here we are, chapter 1, right? As you can see, or maybe you can't see, we have many, many lines already slotted in here down below. So what I do, for example, for a major role, like Vivi, for example, is I'll just record one big bundle of lines across an entire arc, right? So, for example, I'd start here and record up until like here. That's just eyeballing it. That's about 3 minutes of solid lines, basically, because again, that's a major character. So that only really applies to major characters, however, because that's blocks, right? It also helps because you're probably watching the video while reading it, so your timing is going to be relatively close anyway. So all I have to do is adjust it like a few frames left or right, which is super easy to do. If you're doing a moderate character, like Blank, for example, Dream Whisper, I believe I'm putting you on channel 9? No, that's Baku. Where's Blank? Where's Blank? Here we go. I think. Nope, that's not right.
Way too big.
There you are. Where are you? Oh, you're on the Steiner channel. Right, that makes sense. Hey, Pack of 12 Ninjas, thank you very, very much for the sub. Much obliged. Much appreciated, as always. Thank you. If you happen to know where you want to put that, as usual, let me know. So, like, for example, for Blank's lines here, and you don't have to do this, Dream Whisper, again, but what I would do is he has a bundle from starting right there with that laugh, which you've already done, of course. And he basically talks back and forth to Zidane for like this entire bundle right here. So that's about, what is that? It's about 57 seconds of basically him talking back and forth to Zidane. So that's what I mean when I say one bundle of lines. Now, technically, he does actually keep talking in the next scene right here. But this is why I say this is a convenient way to do this, because if you do it by scene, then you're not talking 7 trillion times a minute like I do, like I'm an idiot. And B, you can just be like, okay, chop that off, send it in, and you can just send the file name in as, chapter 1, what is it, chapter 1, Dream Whisperer, blank, 1622, and that's like this whole bundle of lines, right? And then, of course, he talks here. If you want to extend it into whenever he stops talking, you can do that. That would be about here. But that requires more knowledge of FF9 in general, which is why I say doing it by scene might be the easier method. Now, I was going to mention something else. Oh, Dream Whisperer also asked a very good question. He said, if you make a mistake in the middle of doing a bundle, do you just want to redo it? Yes, that's exactly right. So to use a direct example here, I'll do this right. I'm going to pretend blank isn't here, and I'm going to pretend I'm voicing blank, right? So I'm watching the video. They're sleeping so fondly. Whoops, hang on. Now notice I'm still recording while I do this. So I just rewind the video, and I just do another take. They're sleeping so soundly. And then just keep going from there. Because then all I have to do is basically chop out the first take in its entirety, and the second take is already synced because you rewound the video. Does that make sense? So if you're doing these bundle takes, you can just do a second take immediately. The only thing that will help with the timing is that make sure that you rewind the video back to the point so you reread the line. Like that. Now, I do want to mention one other thing. Earthbound is actually on the list, yes. Let's put him in here. Let me pull up the lines here again. Give me one moment. Like I said, I have a lot of stuff going on here. So there's us. Hi, we're back. And we're gone. Okay, so this is a project I've been doing for at least a year. It's actually over a year. I don't know how long. But I want to mention something. So these are all the director's notes. I shouldn't have to explain what those are. But I do want to explain one thing. My directing style has changed over the years. And I'm going to give a direct example here. So we'll just pull up chapter 1. Get rid of that really quick. So here, what I tried to do early on, and I kind of did do this, you can note, is, but okay, I'm going to just go ahead and be honest, I'm not consistent about this. The idea was, if you see one timestamp, that's one line. If you see a timestamp dash timestamp, that is more than one line. I was a little inconsistent with how I did this for a while, probably up until chapter 9, actually, if I'm being completely honest. Chapter 9... So here's when it becomes, you'll notice the style is completely different. First of all, most of these are number dash number. That's because I was taking much more careful note and trying to be much more clear about what is a line versus what is a bundle of lines. I also put spaces in between lines. This is to indicate scenes. This is, again, to help people to keep track of what is going on what. So all of this is actually all one scene across the source of 11 minutes. And he has that bundle of lines, then he could skip forward 15 seconds to that bundle of lines, then he could skip forward another 30 seconds to that line, and so forth and so on. It is my hope that this method, the one you're seeing on the screen right now, is more clear. And this is what I've tried to use going forward. 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 all use this method of indicating dialogue. I also have a couple of little tidbits I've gotten used to saying. Like if you're talking internally, I'll mention that it's full volume. If you're whispering, because the game actually shows whispering and internal monologue as the exact same text, so I've been clarifying, because those have to be said differently, honestly. And I think that's about it. Oh, actually, this is one other very small thing. If anyone speaks something that isn't English, I will actually say what they're saying in English in parentheses. So you can, the idea here is, even though the line here is actually Kupopo, you can now know that what you're saying is, who's that? So you can say, Kupopo. You can put the tone of who's that into the words. Make sense? This is mostly relevant for the Moogles. But there are several Moogle lines where their only line is Kupo, but it is clear they're actually speaking, and that's why I put the lines there. I also have a directorial style that mostly tries to get across the mentality and the backstory of a particular line, so we'll see exactly how that works going forward. And of course, anything at the bottom, this is all my stuff. This is just for my sake. Ignore that. That's why there's no director's notes here. I don't need director's notes. So ignore that. That's just for me. This is the lines that don't currently have actors. One final note. If you have been assigned a line over here on the spreadsheet, but it does not show you over here, there's a reason for that, and it's because I'm not 100% sure that you're getting locked in for that yet. I also update the spreadsheet before I update the document. So that's just the general idea there. Okay, I think that really does cover everything. I'm going to chop off the local recording so I can update this on YouTube. If anybody has any questions on YouTube, feel free to put them in the comments section, because at the moment I still have a comment section on my YouTube that may go away in about 2 months. We'll see.